What's good, folks? Welcome to another edition of the Cover One Film Room, the show that gives you the hows and the whys behind both the good and the bad of the Buffalo Bills. I am one of your two hosts, Anthony Prohaska, joined as always by Eric Turner. And Eric, we're putting a bow on the preseason.
Yeah.
We're discussing the Bills' 53-man roster and some announcements that were made earlier today and last night. We're going to talk a little Hard Knocks, fun episode planned for all the people, and the final, well, no, because we have next week as well, but really like one of the last few episodes before we get regular season, ones on ones, good on good, real live bullet football. Very exciting times in this episode and in the future. But how you doing? How you feeling? How's it going?
We were talking prior to show.
Yeah,
it's been a long week, but then trying to prep for this episode, there were multiple topics we wanted to cover in a short amount of time, obviously. And then, of course, Bean did some things to add to our plate. So much so that when I got out of work at 3, I sat and watched special teams film of Sam Franklin, who the Bills signed, who played for the Bills special teams coach in Carolina. I'm sitting there watching it in the Discord channel, just like, what am I doing with my life? Like, just so much stuff that we have to go over today, including bringing on Sam Franklin. But man, I'm excited to get some film. We're going to get some film later. Tyrell Shavers, Deone Walker. I'm sure we'll pop on some other players' film just as the conversation goes, but excited for this episode. But again, it's one of those episodes we have a lot to unpack. So get comfortable, get your drink, get your dinner, and enjoy the film room with us.
I get the idea of like, okay, like Monday is kind of a dead news day. So people do things like Tuesday, Wednesday. And I know we do our show on like Wednesdays, but man, I just feel like there's always something that they just throw out there to throw a curveball at us at the last minute when we think we're set or we kind of have an idea. But yeah, in a good way, as always. And yeah, Eric, let's lead off with, I guess kind of the most, well, depending on how you look at it, the most recent news. But the Bills kind of circling the wagons a little bit with two former players in Jordan Poyer and Jordan Phillips. Yeah, both Jordans, both JPs, as Brandon Beane talked about in his presser today. Something similar to you. Like, I finished work and I saw all the pressers and I was like, I can get to the Brandon Beane one. Let me listen to the Brandon Beane one right before we go here. Phillips's signing, even Poyer's as well. I made joke posts about them on social, but I didn't realize how severe like the negativity would be, I guess, kind of for both from fans. I think people saw each signing and thought like they're going to be in the heavy rotation. They're going to be like on the 53 and on the depth chart. And as you have queued up right here is the practice squad signings from the Buffalo Bills official site. And right here on the practice squad signing, we have Jordan Phillips and we have Jordan Poyer. So both of them going to the veteran spots on the practice squad. Culture, leadership, character, as Brandon Beane referenced. And they both come back to Buffalo. I guess Jordan Phillips, this is what his like 74th time coming back to the Bills. And Poyer, returning after spending a year in Miami last year.
Even the questions and their pressers, I think Poyer's still going right now, but when Jordan Phillips was at the presser, they're asking him like, what brought you back to Buffalo? It's like, go back to your notes the other 5 times that he was brought back, right? Like, you know why he came back here. You know why. The culture, everyone he knows, the comfort, like football is football in Buffalo, and that's all you really got. The family, like, come on, guys, like that's just too easy. But bringing both of those guys back makes a lot of sense in this role. It's going to be an adjustment for these guys because these are guys that were at certain times, big role players or foundational pieces for this franchise as they, as the Bills and this regime, turn things around, became that success story that they've had over the last few years. It was funny because I was at football practice for my son yesterday, and during practice, I get a text message saying, "What have you heard about Poyer?" I'm like, and I get home after taking the kids to dinner. And I get home like, "What do you know about Poyer?" Like, why are you asking me? And so then I start asking around, and then in our Discord channel, someone in our Discord channel, I'm not going to mention her name, but she said Poyer's on a plane right now with like my friend or whatever, and he took a picture of Poyer. I'm like, oh, okay. And then next thing you know, those rumors are flying, and then you hear that Poyer was signed as well. And of course, there was a freak out for both of these signings. But look, take it easy now, calm down. Having this type of leadership experience in the interior defensive line room and the
Mm.
safety room, 2 areas that we've covered almost every episode because of the lack of experience, because of the growing pains, like all these things that we've talked about all offseason. Adding these 2 leaders in that role, in those roles, is exciting for me. I mean, just go back and watch the Hard Knocks episode last night, right, Ant? That
Mm.
episode where Max was called out and asked, "Hey, what'd you say about Tre White earlier?" And he said, "Tre still beats himself up at practice, as a veteran, and how he can learn from that." Having veterans in each room really matters, especially at these 2 positions.
Yeah, I understood, and not even understood. I understand some of the uproar. I don't think, based on the play of either guy, if you're sitting there thinking like, oh my God, one of them has to start or fill in, like I understand some of the trepidation in that. But, again, as being said in the presser, and as you alluded to, the culture standpoint, the character standpoint, the leadership standpoint, and Jordan Poyer had a very, by NFL standards, very long career here in Buffalo and a successful one with what he and Micah Hyde helped, kind of revamp and change this defense a bit. And especially, a guy like Poyer, where so much of the safety conversation we've had this offseason has been like not having that interchangeability and versatility of Hyde and Poyer, and now being kind of more siloed a bit with Rapp and Bishop. And to have a guy now in the room like Jordan Poyer, who, his physical ability was something that was always understood, being able to see it on tape, but it was the mental side that really allowed him and kind of the defense to take off a bit. He was one of the, and I mean this, I know people usually use the word brain trust negatively or as like a backhanded compliment, but he was a significant part of that on-field brain trust that allowed this defense to be so good for years. So having him in the room, having him and Taylor Rapp in the room to help develop Cole Bishop and help develop Jordan Hancock. I didn't watch a ton of Bishop tape from last year. What I saw, Poyer tape from last year, what I saw wasn't ideal, but I don't think he's in line to start right now or see the field, as a lot of people were kind of, oh my God, he's going to start, or how bad is our safety room? Practice squad. Get these guys in the room. Similar, conversation for Phillips. He's got some miles on the tires, but some experience. Let these guys learn, develop, and simmer, and learn from some vets and take advantage of the practice squad veteran spot designations. And hopefully they help these young guys develop, and hopefully it's not more than that.
Totally. So, both of those guys are relegated to the practice squad, and there's some cool video from practice today of Poyer working on special teams is one thing, but also working as the, basically the scout team receiver. And you can see the Bills practicing some motion, and I'm sure it's motion that you're going to see from the Ravens in week 1. And the defenders are having to adjust the motion and all that good stuff that we love to break down here in the film room. But it's obviously a different role for these guys, especially Poyer. He talked about in his presser right before we went live. But aside from those 2 guys, any of the names from the practice squad, anyone stand out to you? Any surprises? What are your thoughts on the overall collection of that unit?
I like it mainly because if I can see the Bills continue to keep Frank Gore Jr., it makes me happy. Like, I'm happy that, he came back. But I think a lot of the guys kind of tick the box that we would look for to come back. I know a lot of fans are happy for Jimmy Charlo. The big one, and I know I don't want to take too much of your thunder because I know you'll probably speak about him. I'm happy they got Keontae Jenkins back on the practice squad. He flashed a bit during the preseason. And overall, I like the mix. I don't think anyone's practice squad is filled with studs, but I wanted them to get Frank Gore Jr. back, and I'm happy with that. I wanted them to retain Charlo and Jenkins, and they did. Even Daquan Hardy, who's flashed a bit, and maybe even Dane Jackson, who maybe they need week 1, depending on what happens to Tre White. But I think it's a good mix of some young dudes, some veteran presence, the positions they chose, and how they attacked it. And then I'm thinking, no, I don't think it's too crazy that Buechele made it over White. No. Given, his standing and how well he played in that third game. And they liked him a couple years before when he got banged up. So, yeah, overall, not too many surprises for me.
Yeah, obviously, I like Jenkins, the linebacker. I think he just moves very fluidly, like the Bills like their linebackers to move. And I think, he played a lot in that, like, overhang type role. And again, very Matt Milano style when it comes to being fluid and
Matt Milano style and Tremaine Edmonds' number and dreads.
yeah, exactly. The best of both worlds, right?
Right?
I think it was nice. I liked his preseason ups and downs, but he was productive, always around the ball. And another guy that when I started prepping for this show, that I watched all of his film from this preseason was Zion Logue, the nose tackle. And the reason was because there's a lot of that talk about, hey, are they gonna cut Dwayne Carter? So I'm like literally trying to watch all of their film and kind of put them side by side and who played nose tackle better. And there was some really good film on Logue at nose tackle as a shade defensive tackle.
He had a couple nice double team stops, I think, against the Bears. And I was like, oh, like I perked up and I was like, this is exciting.
He's very good when those combination blocks come at him. And Dwayne Carter struggled at times at doing that. But obviously, Carter's on the roster as well, Logue to the practice squad. So again, the evolution of prepping for Bills content during Bean's regime has been fun, especially this week. But aside from that, I like the mixture of young guys that they have already invested development time in on top of guys that, hey, if you need to, break glass in case of emergency, you have them on top of the leadership. And again, it's cool to see how the practice squad has evolved over the last few years and how teams and general managers construct those rosters to help their team and their overall goal.
Yeah. Brandon Bean had a cool comment today that I guess I'd never really thought of, but kind of mentioning like, we don't have a minor league or like a AAA team where we can send down guys. So, and then combining that with the practice squad changes after COVID and the veteran spots and what you could do. I thought he just had some really spot on points with how teams, and maybe it might be just from the Bills perspective, but an insight into, again, like how teams look to use that practice squad and how you fill it. And it doesn't have to just be guys, with under 2 years. And now you can add veterans. And it is that mix of young guys that might need some more seasoning in terms of development that you want to keep around. But now you also have, that break glass in case of emergency, 1, 2, 3 guys, up to 6 veterans you can have on the practice squad. So it's an interesting mix. And I think the Bills took advantage of that mix, again, while circling the wagons a bit, no pun intended there, with, adding to the culture and the leadership and guys who know this system and everything.
And speaking of circling the wagons, I don't think they're done there yet, guys. Just a little teaser. I don't think they're done there. I do think there's at least one more move on the horizon very soon.
Everybody's going to be so mad.
Keep an eye out for that. Just keep your head on a swivel for that as we transition to Hard Knock takeaways. So episode was last night, Tuesday night. I was kind of bummed. I thought we were going to get some kind of like, hey, you made the team Tyrell Shavers video. I know that was like the big thing, but
you know what annoyed me too? A lot of the guys they focused on were all guys who didn't make the team.
I know.
That annoyed the hell out of me. Like it made you watching it. I felt so terrible because
Frank Gore, Jimmy Charlo,
even going with like with Rogers. For doing for his dog stuff. And I'm like, it literally was like every guy, Zach Davidson, every guy they focused on other than like Allen and the QB stuff. I was just like, is this a joke? Or are you doing this ironically? Like literally every person they spent time on did not make the roster.
Yeah, it was interesting when it comes to that perspective. But I think overall they've done through the first 4 episodes now, they've done a good job of storytelling. Just watching the kinematic sequencing segment with Josh, obviously that hits home very close for me. I put in way too much time and hours in film of watching Josh during that moment of development. From when he was drafted to 2019, 2020 and seeing that transformation. So hearing them go through that and analyzing him, that was really cool. And just overall Josh, and you can just see how much more comfortable he is in his skin, how he actually looks really trim and in good shape. He used to be a lot thicker, and I think the last couple of years he's gotten trimmed down and in good shape. He seems very nimble and light on his feet when you're watching some of those sequences and just playing free. And I think that's part of the reason why he won the MVP last year. He's in a different state of mind when it comes to his home life, when it comes to on the field, when it comes to his craft. And you saw it in that segment when they were talking about how far he's come in his development as a passer.
Yeah, probably my favorite segment of last night's episode, just seeing all the behind the scenes stuff, like all the camera work, the computer stuff, the presentation skills, like how Chris Hess maps everything and the data and translates it, even him in the room talking with Trubisky and like quantifying his change on that graph. And then he was like,
when his foot is hitting the ground and his hips are opening, it was wild.
And he was like, did you work on anything, this offseason? Because he noted, he was like, you've changed significantly. And Trubisky was like, yeah. And he was like, well, it's great. Like, keep this up. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Of course I've been doing that. Also, all the slow-mo sequence. I'm a sucker for like the slow-mo sequences, the show rotation.
Yeah,
and
that was cool.
I love that. And I loved even like the piece that was like kind of funny, but it was serious. Allen talking about his golf swing, and then Hess going over his golf swing with him. We talk about it all the time. Quarterbacks are rotational athletes, and like golf swing, baseball swings, similar to throwing the football. It's all about that energy transfer, that weight transfer. Hess even said it in last night's episode, like taking that power from the ground and putting it up through your body and flowing through. I just thought it was so on the nose, because I feel like golf swings and baseball swings are the best examples of like rotational athletes, and then and transitioning that to the quarterback conversation. And it was cool too as well. Those times when you were breaking down Allen's mechanics is back when I was a fan of the brand and not on it. And I remember that going into you doing that in 2019 and 2020, and then to see where it's all come full circle was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of work back then, and it was one of it was probably, when it comes to projects I pick up in the offseason, it was without a doubt the most in-depth project I've done. And when it comes to resources and references and stuff like that.
And they showed it a bit last night too, like even just those little clips, like you watch one throw from like each of those early years to now, you can see how much arm based he was and how like effort it was
disjointed. Right? It was like his body was pulling in different directions and not working together. Jason, you make a great point here. He says it also seems like he is more comfortable being Brady-esque. The way to tell his players, I need you to be here. Quiz his wide receivers about their route, trimming down, focused. I agree. That is totally true. He runs the show, and what he says goes. We talked about that a few weeks ago. There's a certain level of comfort, and I'd say demanding, better of his players, and saying, hey, I'm telling you to be here. If you want the ball, get there and you'll get the ball type. Basically just there's no one challenging him. He's telling them how things are done. And I think that is obviously, that comes with time over the last few years, and really no one to challenge him if that's the case.
I would say that, and that being a huge point. Like there's some good players on this team, but and even for as much of the conversation, I feel like people have talked in a negative way about it's like Allen and then just kind of this mediocre supporting cast on offense, even though the offensive line is tremendous and is much more than mediocre. I think tying into that in a positive way, because there is no like outward star in the traditional sense, I think it makes it even easier for Allen to just be the de facto alpha leader, whatever verbiage you want to use. And there is no one to kind of push back, because everyone is more role player based than superstar based. And then their personality and being brought in is all about doing your 111th, funneling in, and everything funnels up to Josh.
It 100% funnels up to Josh. When they break when they break meetings, what does McDermott have them say?
17, close them down, or whatever he says. Yeah.
No, they clap to Josh Allen. It's literally ingrained in them. And so that's what they want. They want Josh to be the centerpiece, which he is obviously. But he's the top of the food chain when it comes to this team. And aside from Josh, McDermott, I thought the cool part in the Hard Knocks yesterday was when he was at the table just sitting and talking to Tracy McGrady and Vince Carter, and just how I love McDermott as a leader. And you can tell that when he gets around greatness, regardless of sport or occupation, when he gets around greatness, he's a sponge. He'll ask questions. He'll sit there and talk to them for a long amount of time. And it just felt like he was doing that in that moment with McGrady and Carter, just sitting, listening, trying to pick up anything for a coach. Because you got to think about it, he's been coaching for a lot of years. Sometimes your message can get old. So you got to pick up new pieces and new sayings and learn things from others from greatness so that you could pass it on to your players and so that that message doesn't get stale.
Yeah, it's so easy. The stale is such a great way to put it. Like, it's so easy for the message to get stale, especially when, even if you've won a bunch, but especially when you've gotten close and have like continued to fail or not win that,
Right.
it's easy to kind of, see guys fall off or,
Tune 'em
not
out.
really, tune them out or go one in ear and out the other. And I like those little details. Especially as a little kid who loved, growing up in Buffalo and like the Raptors were right here in Toronto, and I'm a
Yeah.
Carolina guy. I loved Vince Carter, and then McGrady was on the Raptors, and they shipped him
Raptors,
out.
yeah.
Conversation for another time, I guess, of my small childhood heartbreaks for me in sports. But I like both of their like anecdotes were cool. Vince Carter talking about how refs in the NBA treated young guys, and then McGrady's little nugget. I love that McDermott asked, I'm paraphrasing it, but like, do you think leadership needs to come from the
Within the
players?
players, yeah.
Yeah. And McGrady came out and was like, it can come from the coach, like anybody who's in that leadership position. And he was like, and sometimes your leader doesn't necessarily have to be your best player on the team. And he also gave an example of, Tim Duncan being a Hall of Famer, arguably like one of the best power forwards of all time, but was really quiet, didn't say anything, but he led with his preparation and he led with his play. And I think those, we always see like at events, like cameras catch like players or former athletes like talking to one another. These moments in Hard Knocks are so cool because you have two tremendous basketball players talking with a really good football coach, and they're chopping it up and sharing. The athletic conversation translates, leadership translates, like the hard work and the preparation translates across sports. And it's cool to see guys have those connection pieces and talk. And it wasn't, I feel like some people may have thought like, oh, this is staged. I feel like McDermott wanted this and it was a real conversation. It was cool. I would take like a full episode just of those kind of conversations and that type of soaking up. That was cool.
And we've seen different cuts of him at Penn State wrestling practice. We've seen him do this with other teams, baseball games, baseball players. Like, he just has, like I said, I don't think he hasn't stopped growing. And I think we see that each and every year. And I think that was just one of those moments where he was just asking questions, being a sponge, getting true input from greatness. And I also loved how when he was, I think it was like at the end of one of their meetings, he was just showing his gratitude to the players and how, yes, football is your life and, this is your job, this is your craft. But at the same time, this is not going to define you. And it almost looked like he was choking up when he was saying this, because you could just sense the gratitude and thankfulness that he had for his players and how much work they put in this offseason, this preseason, with what is about to happen hours later, or maybe even a day later based on when they recorded it. Cut down day, roster transactions, and some difficult conversations that he and Brandon Beane would have to have with some of these players face to face as they released or, cut them.
Yeah, those are always the most uncomfortable moments whenever, they didn't really show much for the Bills here, but I hated those parts of Hard Knocks when the guys would come in. We talked about it, a couple weeks ago. You'd get the equipment guy who knocks on someone's door and tells them they got to go see coach and bring your playbook. And especially for someone like Sean McDermott, who is an emotional guy and cares about every player from 1 to 53 or 1 to 90 in the offseason, that's a hard time for him to kind of have to cut ties with guys. And it's cool to see the human aspect and the people management and leadership that he brings, which is a huge part of what's turned this franchise around under his stewardship.
We got to stop the show. Brad S. drops a super chat to us. Thank you, Brad. We appreciate it. He says, a little surprise more made to 53. Very rarely stood out. Do you think there's more on tap for when he's actually playing with Josh? Or is it because there's too much money tied up in him like Samuel? So my thought on more is you have to watch all of the tape, okay? Because even though he wasn't getting a lot of targets, a lot of receptions, a lot of anything, there were so many routes where he was routing dudes up.
That Bears one on the play action, where he sinks the hips and pops back out, he sells the over.
And the pass was batted down, right?
Yep, at the line, Mike White threw it.
There were so many of those routes where he was getting open, and maybe he wasn't the primary read. Maybe he's like the second or third read, and the pass is batted down. He gets open, and the quarterback's pressured. He has to move on, dump it down to a running back. There were so many routes where they were just half a click off of getting the ball to him or the quarterback getting his eyes to him to get the ball to him. And so I still think there is some timing and rhythm that is probably needs to be ironed out. But from everyone that went to the Bears scrimmage against them, they said that Moore played really well. So for me, we can only go off with the preseason film that we have. And there were just so many routes where they're just half a click off. And I think once they get in rhythm, once he gets on the same page with Josh, I do think that he'll become more involved, especially when you're talking like manufactured touches and you have the starting offensive line and you have other wide receivers that can create an impact or lift the top off the defense so that he can work where he's good at. I think I think we haven't seen the best of Elijah Moore in the Bills offense.
Yeah, I second that notion completely. It was actually super annoying because I feel like of several of the targets he had in the preseason, he had like a couple drops and then some things didn't look good. And then you're not seeing the raw stats. And I feel like it put into a lot of people's minds like, oh, he's having a horrible preseason. But exactly like you said, and I'm not going to, bang that drum too much more because you hit it on the head, or too much more, no pun intended. He had some really nice routes and some separation moments that I don't think are going to get covered by most people because it was, the pass was batted down or it wasn't in, the initial part of the progression or the read. And so nobody's noticing it or carrying it. Granted, we comb through every single aspect of the film and that's why we do it for moments like this. So we can speak on something like that. And yeah, I think he offers a nice piece in his wide receiver room. And also maybe if Khalil Shakir's high ankle sprain is, ailing him a little bit and he's not 100% for the first couple weeks, you have somebody
you hedge with Moore.
Exactly. And then Moore also, and then when Shakir comes back, Moore can still do inside, but also outside stuff. And you can maneuver him a bit. So I think it's a hedge your bet, but also a guy who I don't think the broadcast and the raw stats showed some of the nice plays that he made this preseason, albeit not very productive in this offense.
Right. All right. So he obviously made the roster. We're going to get to some more guys that did as well. I want to talk about some of the decisions and some of the moves. We talked about Dane Jackson being put on the practice squad. Again, a pretty good in case of emergency type player. But what does that mean for Tre White? I know Brandon Beane was asked today at the presser on his status, Tre White, for week 1, and they obviously aren't going to give you that.
He was super forthcoming. He showed the MRI results and everything.
Yeah, exactly. He put it right up on the backboard there and just, hey, everyone, look, this is what happened to Tre. He'll be ready in like 27 hours. No, of course not. He wasn't upfront about that. But what does that mean for the roster if he's not available for week 1? What are they going to do? Do they call up Dane? Like what do you think they should do if Tre can't make week 1 against the Ravens?
I think they call up Dane, and I think there's even though he didn't look great this preseason, knowing how much they place on reliability and responsibility, I could see them calling up Dane and starting Dane. What I would personally like to see and hope, I like the idea of Jamarcus Ingram starting, especially in week 1 against Baltimore. They're going to run the football. You know how important that aspect is to their team. Jamarcus Ingram is good in run support, both in terms of like a force player or a fitter, but also as like a tackler. He's good again, coming up and making plays on like those little bubbles in screens. He's shown some coverage chops over the years, inside and outside, in addition to just he kind of moved past just being physical and scrappy and nasty, and he started to show some coverage chops a little bit. I don't think he's some all-pro corner that's waiting in the wings. I do think there are some potential vulnerabilities you will have from a coverage standpoint, but knowing what he brings against the run, knowing the physical element he brings, his ability to play some pressure, his comfortability in that aspect, and the inside-outside piece he brings, he can blitz. I would like to see him as the starter in week 1 if Tre is unable to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think either of those two, if they play, I think they'll be all right, especially when you're talking about who the Bills are playing and how typically that team likes to attack the Bills defense. It is going to be one of those, slobber knocker type games where they're going to try to come downhill at the Bills. So you got to have corners like Dane Jackson or Ingram, for that matter, that can come up and make those tackles, play with that physical mentality, play with that, again, that mentality that it's going to be a dogfight. It always is. And week 1 is always wonky. And I like Ingram. I've loved his development. I think he does a good job on special teams. And I'm not surprised that, he obviously made the roster. He's a guy that can do a little bit of everything when it comes to being a dime in the dime defense. He can jump in there at several of the positions. So it'll be interesting to see where Tre White is. Last I heard, and I haven't even circled back because there's so many other things going on. When it came to his injury, I was told it was more of a groin issue. Then Brandon Beane came out 2 days later and said it was lower leg. I don't know. Regardless, he's gonna play this season. If he doesn't play in week 1, I don't think it's a worst thing for this defense, considering the matchup and the two guys that they can put in there to, again, come up, make some reliable tackles on a team that loves to run the ball.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Now, I don't love the idea of, if Zay Flowers gets matched up on Jamarcus Ingram, we have to, figure some things out there. But yeah, given the matchup, given the early spot in the year, yeah, I think you kind of make a case for either guy. And I don't know, maybe I'm just playing from a non-X's and O standpoint, but I think he fits from an X's and O standpoint. And Baltimore wants to come in and punch you in the mouth. So get you a dude who wants to punch someone else in the mouth. Like, imagine fitting the run in week 1 when your corners are Benford and Ingram. Like, who's getting outside on that? Like, nobody's getting outside on you on that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. All right. So one guy who has really earned his stripes and his dues, Tyrell Shavers, wide receiver. Happy for him. Great story. He left it all out there this preseason. 20.5 yards per reception, single touchdown, 2.8 yards per route run. I thought he did a great job of, regardless of what quarterback was in, uncovering, being QB friendly, creating some splash plays and some big moments. Any opportunity that was thrown his way, he capitalized for the most part, aside from, again, some early struggles early on. Was it last game or the Bears game?
The Bucks game. He dropped the first one that came his way, and then he double caught the one where Bouchel scrambled out. Yeah.
But overall, man, I thought he was great. And we're going to start off with a bang in the film room here. We're going to start off with his big catch against the Bucks and just the body control from him, the bottom of the screen, and his ability to track the ball, not make too many like drastic movements as the ball is dropping in, as he's being contacted, so that he can make that one-handed catch along the boundary. Just a difficult catch that he made look so easy against the Bucks.
Yeah, it was cool throughout the preseason that we saw different moments of him, showing his size, showing his frame, showing his athleticism, some of the long speed. This one is just really nice, showing that size, showing the frame. He's fending off the corner with his inside arm. They're battling, jostling a little bit, and then he essentially extends around the corner and just, like that. I'm getting lost, like, purely in the film of it. Like, that's and it wasn't like he one-handed it and bobbled it, or he caught it with his wrist and brought it in. Like, it was so silky smooth the way he brought it in. And then he gets the knee down, the feet down as well. Like, that's just the hand-eye coordination. Look at his ball. The eyes are right on the ball, and bang, reaches out. I like that he's wearing white gloves. It shows the catch easier against the ball there. Even a good ball from Bouchel putting it out. But beautiful. Look at the stride, the length. That's being big at the catch point. That's having size and frame and athleticism. It was one of the best plays of the entire preseason, not just for the Bills, like across the entire NFL. That play was tremendous.
I want to talk about his releases, though, not just in the Bucs game.
I love this one. This one is one of my favorite reps, and it's so small.
This is why I said for weeks that he's got a lot of the Keon Coleman type traits when it comes to, obviously, his size and everything like that. But he is the solo wide receiver, top of the screen, and you have to be able to run several types of routes from that position. And he makes so many of them look the same. Watch the release. Again, he can release inside or outside based on how he sets it up. Releases outside. Okay, now the corner's thinking it's a fade. It's a go ball. It's a 9, right? But then, boom, drops those hips, snaps it off, ball's there, and he's able to catch it there for several yards. I have been super impressed with his development when it comes to his releases and making these routes look similar until they're not.
Yeah, there's a lot of efficiency in his releases. There's not a lot of wasted movement, extra stutters or steps or hand usage. A lot of times it's 1 or 2 steps and bang. And yeah, I'm not going to drag this one on too much, even though I love it. You hit it. Like, he sells vertical and he snaps it off. And I like the timing of the stem. Right as the corner starts to turn and run and open it up, that's when he snaps it off. Runs him by. And that's some good hip sync. That's some good bend for a taller dude and a bigger dude. He separates with deception. That's a really good play right there. And he catches a ball that's a bit off frame. That was one of, it was so small, but that was one of my favorite plays of the entire preseason from him.
Similar thing here. Backside of a 3-by-1 formation. He's the X. He's on the line of scrimmage. Looks very similar here. But then what does he do? Staggered stance, top of this break. Boom, snaps it inside. And it's very, like you said, very fluid, very sharp. And look how he drops his hips to make this cut. You see a little drag right here by the left foot to slow him down so he can make that cut that much sharper. And then right behind the linebacker, very nice route by him and release by him. But it looks so similar through that first like stage of the release. It looks so similar to every other route he runs.
Yeah, you could literally put these side by side. And if you're this Giants corner, you're watching the Bucs game, say the Bucs game happened before, you might think, okay, like that's that release. He's going outside and now he set you up and he banged it inside. Or maybe, that Bucs corner was watching this film from early on and thought like, oh, okay, like he's going to end up stabbing back inside, and Shavers sold it upfield. That's nice, especially when you're in that position where you're outside the numbers, working towards the boundary. If you do outside release, it's likely, defenders know it's likely going to be a 9 or some kind of hitch or stop route coming back. Your route tree is limited. Being able to still operate with deception, create some two-way goes for yourself, or just be efficient in your movement and deception to create separation is so important. And he did a really good job of that this preseason. And this one, like, how efficient is this? Just a little stagger and then goodbye, just strides it out and runs right by him. Another real nice one.
Sneaky quick, man. Sneaky quick here. Bottom of the screen, similar type release. And just look how right there, it looks just the same. And then boom, left foot down, accelerates upfield. And as this corner is trying to open up, Shavers just takes off. And he's got so much separation. That corner's out of phase, but they're not able to connect on that play. His releases have really impressed me, and his development has impressed me in this regard. And it's got to be a major reason why he was not only productive this preseason, but he was able to make the roster and show that he does belong in the NFL.
And then you're talking about this level of, technical ability being towards, quote unquote, like the bottom of your depth chart, and a guy who can also play special teams. Like there's just a lot of value. And you're talking about him potentially as like a long-term guy. Like maybe he's, scratches some of that ceiling a little bit that he had as a prospect coming out. And if you can tap into that, I was sincerely impressed. It wasn't just like, how we've gotten not us, but how fans have gotten the past several years. Like Andy Isabella makes a catch and, oh my God, dude, this dude needs to be like wide receiver 2. He's so great. And all the other guys that have gotten hype in that regard, I thought the hype was warranted for Shavers because of the technical ability and prowess that he showed, and doing that in a package that has some size and some frame and some athleticism and long speed. Like that's a nice dude to have at the bottom of your depth chart. And he plays special teams and he's good on special teams. It just seems easy. There was no way they could leave him off the roster, and he 1000% earned it with his play this year. It was cool to see.
So who are some other guys that maybe impressed you in the Bucs game or just in preseason overall, aside from, the guys we're going to watch some film on? Is there anyone else that you want to give like an honorable mention to this preseason? Again, what it could be even just in the Bucs game, but overall, some guys that, again, get that honorable mention.
Just because I think we talked about this person with how he played against the Bears. I think he was a little quieter against the Giants and a little quieter against the Bucs, but I thought Landon Jackson had some nice moments this preseason. He actually even had a nice rep where he almost got to Trask as Ogunjobi was driving the guard into Trask's face, and that was a nice rep. It was a completion to Palmer. I think Trey Palmer on like a second or third down, but
was he ripping through? Was he
ripping?
Yes.
He got into the chest of the left tackle. Got created that half man, ripped right through that outside shoulder. Jackson also had a nice stop towards the low red zone where he goes through the tight end, number 41, and then uses one arm to kind of reach around and grab the running back and hold him at the goal line. And Walker comes free and helps bury him, and it creates a stop. I thought Jackson had some kind of sneaky flashes in the game against the Bucs, more pronounced ones in the Bears game that we talked about. He's someone who I really just had my eye on because I think they need edge production this year. He's potential key cog of the future, knowing that AJ Epinesa is a UFA and Bosa's UFA next year. And also because, like I've talked about on the show, like I don't like guys like him because of how he's built. So every week it's a watch for me with a lot of intent. And I thought he's had some good production. And I say that as a person who didn't love his body type. I thought the third round value was cool, but I traditionally stay away from guys like that. So I feel like he had a productive preseason. I'm happy with kind of where he's at.
This is where I'd go. Jason, you make a great point. He says, I was actually impressed by Buechele. He plays quarterback like a point guard, just gets the ball into people's hands. Good for a backup QB. Impressive. He made the practice squad over White if White would have signed. I agree. And I said that on Turf the Tape. I thought in the game against the Bucks, he did such a great job of just distributing, getting the ball out to guys like Shavers and Wilkinson, guys trying to put on tape, and good tape for that matter. And he just distributed to those guys, let them do their job to make their case for the roster or the
complete ownership of the offense from start to finish. He looked calm, poised, comfortable. He made some plays out of structure but also was on time, in rhythm, going through his progressions. He played phenomenally. Yeah.
He did. Whether it was an extra rusher, a free rusher, he knew where his outlets were. He called all the alerts. Like he saw pressure coming when I don't even know how he saw pressure coming and just dropping it to a tight end or dropping it to a running back on that mesh rail to get the first down. Like he was just in total control of the offense. And, he played the entire game, which says something because I don't think he's played. I think Sale was saying he hasn't played an entire game in the NFL. And so that was basically his first one, which is why he got kind of emotional after the game. So yeah, I think Shane Buechele did a great job in that game and this preseason overall for that matter. But we want to talk about the future. We want to talk about the D-line, of course, because that was probably, if I could take anything away from this preseason, I'd say I focused in on the D-line more than anything else.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. There were a lot of new pieces, a lot of new parts and toys, and we're trying to see how they're going to mesh. And the game plan was so, like in these games, they were so vanilla, almost non-existent, that you just got to see raw skill, raw talent, or lack thereof.
Yeah.
And there were several guys that stood out. We're going to talk about Deone Walker, TJ Sanders, but I just love the future of those two guys and the Bills' interior defensive line to start because of those two guys. And I think in this game against the Bucks, I don't think Sanders had as many flashes as Walker. I think overall, both are very close when we're talking the entire preseason. But I want to get your thoughts on Sanders so far. We have several reps from these preseason games from Sanders. What are your takes so far? How does it hold up against what you thought you saw on film when he was in college?
Yeah, I liked what we saw from TJ Sanders this preseason, starting from the pass rush aspect and kind of tying that into your question there. He translated well to the NFL game with what we saw at South Carolina. We talked about his hand usage and his quickness, especially laterally, to go from gap to gap and be effective. And we saw that in spades this preseason. We saw him beat guys within like a quarter of a second off the line. We saw him cross multiple gaps and be able to use his core strength and power through, and flatten to the quarterback. Well, that's a good way to shorten that. Instead of saying power through and flatten, I could just say power flew. That kind of works. I liked what he did. We showed some of the run struggles for both him and Deone Walker the previous week against the Bears. But like we talked about, I think that's kind of what you have to live with them at this stage in their career. And you just hope that the positive flashes can outweigh that. And I know a lot of people are talking about Walker because of how big the flashes were. And again, he's a very big man, so they stand out more. But I thought Sanders had a really consistent preseason. I'll say this, especially if we're kind of juxtaposing them, which I hate doing because it makes it seem like one's bad and one's good. I think Sanders had some very strong positive flashes like Walker, and I also don't think he had, but I don't think he had like the lows that necessarily Walker may have had at moments. But yeah, I'm very encouraged by Sanders. Granted, we liked him a lot coming out, so it didn't take a lot for me to get on the bandwagon.
Yeah, I feel that's exactly right. I think I responded to Dan Fates' question about that, or his comment about Walker just making and flashing the most. And I won't disagree there, but I do think, like you said, Sanders had an equal amount and fair amount of those flashes and highs, but strong. Like you said, not as strong, not as many lows when it comes to that. And I think that's what I expected from TJ Sanders
Yeah.
versus Walker when we're comparing the two. I
Absolutely.
expect TJ Sanders to play more consistently at a high level for a longer amount of time. I think you're going to have some lapses from Deone Walker. Now, what's great is that he's not going to have to start.
Yeah.
So then you're going to be putting him in there in a reserve role after the offensive line is faced Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones and others. And then here comes Deone Walker on a third down in a wide alignment, and the offensive lineman like, this isn't fair.
Yeah, this
And
sucks.
so, and I think also Walker had some advantageous matchups inside against some centers and guards that probably, I don't even know if they made the roster. I will say that.
Fair
I don't want to
point.
take anything away from him.
Yeah.
We're gonna break down enough of his film and give him his
we're
kudos.
gonna
But
praise him a
obviously,
lot.
we need to frame it a little bit before we get to that. But I do think there's a lower floor with Walker, but the ceiling is sky high for the guy with his size, length, explosive, violent power, and his ability to work his feet around his hands like you're going to see on some of this film. The dude's, he could be very special, Anthony, if he, again, just takes the coaching, stays healthy, and just bides his time behind Daquan and soaks up everything that Ed Oliver and Daquan have to tell him.
Yeah, and that's a lot of what we talked about when he was drafted. It was that variance, right? Like he could end up being a huge steal and a stud, or he could be towards the lower part of that floor aspect because, again, it's the health and the weight and the health and the weight tying into the back. And then that's also tying into you getting better in his technique with his hand usage, playing to his length, all these pieces. But I think he had a good preseason. It was cool to see him correct a lot of the things that we talked about last week and change in this game against the Buccaneers. And it's understandable why so many folks are excited to see him suit up in the regular season, but there are still some questions that hopefully we get answered.
Yeah, so we're going to take a look at a bunch of his clips from the entire preseason to kind of recap his play because he was phenomenal. He was one of the better players on the Bills team on both sides of the ball. Very quick, obviously off the ball, but when you add that quickness and the quick hands and power, when he swings those paws, you can see it can throw guys off balance and he can put him at the quarterback very quickly.
Yeah, so many of these wins that will show, and again, we talked about it in last week's episode coming out of that Bears game, when he can use his hands and he can play to his length, he's going to be a problem. So much of it, I think, when it comes to the story or the narrative around him, and rightfully so, is like, he's huge and look how well he moves. Everybody, I mean, McGovern said it, the broadcaster said it, the whole like bear with ballerina legs and how he moves and everything. And I get it, but I feel like the trajectory and consistency and what he can really be will be tied to hand usage and length. And this is a good example right here. Just like watch the pause, watch the quickness. And with how big and heavy those hands probably are, when he hits somebody, you're feeling that jolt and the length on top of it. I like the comment from Mark in the chat saying, reminds me of John Henderson a bit. If he can play to John Henderson's level, I would take that.
I think that's honestly, I don't think it's a 1-for-1, obviously, but
different body types, but I could understand the kind of how they're built.
I think they're hulking the same way, but I don't think John Henderson moved like this. If you put John Henderson and Marcus Stroud together, you're getting Deone Walker.
Man,
that tandem was so good together. But if you put those two guys together, because Stroud could move, Henderson was more of like a beast. He couldn't rush and move like Deone Walker can. No. So I think that a lot of people have said that comp, but I think that's the difference. But I still
remember him yelling at the trainer to slap him in the face to get geeked up for games. Come on, Joe, you got to do better, Joe. And then he's just slapping the hell out of John Henderson.
And this is where I think Henderson was really good, playing big, playing in long.
Yes.
Keeping offensive linemen at arm's length.
Yes.
And then just watch his feet. Okay, you see his hands pop out. And honestly, I could see him. I wish he'd do a better job. This is how we teach the fifth, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, how to block in flag football right now. I'd like a little more control with the hands. He's just kind of like, he's got his hands out like that, right? I want to see him control the jersey and the man there. But either way, you see him eventually grab cloth and then he's working his feet around those hands. And essentially, again, he's essentially two-gapping here. He's able to play two different gaps, disengage, and make the tackle.
Yeah, being able to have the feet and the footwork work in tandem, or kind of opposite of, depending on how you look at it, of the hand usage is really important. And him being able to do that at that size is so impressive, but again, so important. And just lean into your hand usage, lean into that length. And to your point, yeah, hand placement, cool. Grab some cloth, get some jersey, control your man. There's a good chance he's going to win first touch anytime he wants to. But get your hands there, get the grip, establish dominance. That's what I want him to do inside. And he can do that with his hand usage and placement and that length against almost anyone. And then you can really start to tie in being fleet of foot and nimble and athletic once you do that. And yeah, this one, oh boy, tremendously exciting here.
Yeah, again, playing long. That was the critique we gave him the first couple of games. Play long, use that length. And you see when he does, like you said, he can win first touch more times than not. And that's going to blow that offensive lineman back into the backfield. And that allows him to, again, essentially play two gaps here. And then just take the back door, throw that guy down, and go make the tackle in the backfield.
Yeah. This one was so nice to see on broadcast. They showed a good end zone angle of it. I couldn't wait to get to it on the tape. And yeah, you got highlighted that two gapping piece right there. He's got control of 79. And as you highlighted the two pathways, he's got his head inside. He's eyeing the running back. He can keep playing to that gap if 37 goes that way, or if 37 cuts back, he can fit right off of it, which is what he does. And just look how easily he discards 79, chucks him right by. Shout out to Michael Hoyt setting the edge a little bit there, which forces 37 to have to pin it back inside. And there's Deone Walker to make a play. This is, if he can continue to do this against like starting level caliber, then we got a stew going.
Like I said, I outlined it there. Like he's literally, it's not the traditional sense. It's quasi two gapping. It's not the traditional, okay, stack, don't move, anchor down, and basically play your eyes in two gap. It's not like that. He's actually penetrating. He's attacking upfield. He's doing what the Bills want him to do. But at the same time, he's got the feet, the hands, and the recognition to disengage and go make the tackle.
He's winning in a way that allows him to cover two gaps at the same time. So it's not traditional, beautiful, but it's a similar level of end result in terms of what he can cover.
And his recognition of run blocking concepts, we
gap
saw in
scheme
this
stuff, man.
Don't run it against him. If he's playing nose tackle,
don't run counter against this man.
Don't run gap against him, because he senses that center leaving, all right, and that left guard coming down on that down block, and he just is able to beat it in several different ways. So on this one, you see him recognize it and kind of swim it, right? He swims it, gums things up, and really blows up this play and makes a tackle. I'll show you some other examples of him winning versus these type of blocks and gap runs and doing it in different ways. Just awesome stuff from him when it came to blowing up these gap runs.
Yeah, seeing this one against the Bears, we highlighted this last week. He had a couple plays, another really strong play against counter to blow up a Buccaneers run attempt this past week. These ones get me really excited because it's not just, oh, I'm big and I'm athletic and I'm kind of a unicorn combination. This is actual processing. This is reading, understanding. This is some of what I loved so much about Tyleik Williams, prospect coming out of Ohio State, is his ability to so quickly and accurately diagnose run concepts and blow them up. This is awesome. Like you said, he recognizes that Bates, the center, is moving away from him, gets eyes to the guard, swims him, mucks up 79, who's trying to down block and get himself to Dorian Williams, wrecks this whole play off of recognition paired with that athleticism. And yeah, another example right here. Do not run counter against this man.
He just sees it coming. And again, center's leaving. Here comes the left guard down on him. Look at where his eyes are here. And then now look at his right hand. Look at his right hand. Instead of swimming this over the top with his left, he takes on force with force as that center's going away. He gets his arm loaded. All right. You can see it's loaded. It's tight to his body and in his frame. And then he just twerks that guy and torques him to the ground, just drops him like a bad habit, and then just blows this play up. Like that type of, again, it's not just recognizing it. It's having everything working together. Eyes, hands, length, and then the size and power to make this play. It was so much fun to watch this preseason.
Yeah, and being able to do it, like showing these plays back to back, is so nice, because the first one, you have recognition in both. But the first one is, wow, look at that athleticism, look at the movement. This one, it's, let me just be a bull or a bear inside. Look, this is physicality. I love you mentioned like getting that hand there. You can even see him dip a little bit with his head and his shoulder because he feels that block coming, but he knows he's not in position to swim it or beat it by shooting or penetrating. So he takes on that block. And then, yeah, the power. Look at the transition as he just, like you said, torques that.
Yeah,
When this first happened, I kept watching it from the different angles of the all 22 because I was like, did the guard fall? Did he trip?
Someone step on his feet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And no, Walker did that, gummed up his footwork by just making contact and then, one arm benching him. And also the placement too. Like, look how he just, again, like he's able to get lower leverage, body position, bang. He turns that entire left shoulder of the guard outward and upward and drops him. That's that kind of power paired with the recognition, paired with the size and athleticism. Oh boy.
Yeah. And you're going to see these type of plays and blocking, even in the pass game. So the Bucks show a similar type blocking scheme, but it's a pass. And you're going to see here comes that down block from the right guard this time. You see him recognize it. Look at the arm length and the wingspan, and then how he just gets his hands in place, throws that guy by. It's so easy. If you use your hands properly and place them, you're taking that guy's momentum as it's going left or right on your screen and just escorting him by. It's so much easier. It doesn't even take much power. It's that arm length. It's that recognition and that ability to just throw that guy by and go get in the quarterback's face. And it forced the quarterback to get rid of it when he was actually looking to take a shot downfield. And I think there was two crossers. It was almost like what the Bills used to run. And Bishop was cutting one of them. But they're trying to get the ball downfield. But Walker sped up the process because of this recognition, length, and quickness to the check down. And then the Bills just rallied to the ball.
Yeah, and then allows Andreessen to make the play in space. I don't have too much to add on this one. I just, again, hand usage, length. I like that he's got his hand reaching out for the center and then also still feeling for the guard. Like, so it's not just, again, relying on athleticism or physicality. He's playing it from a smart position or trying to create, an advantage for himself and understand where are guys near me, who's moving where, how can I feel through this? And then, just a simple little, let me run 72 by. You created a bit of a short edge, and now I'm bearing down the quarterback like an actual bear, like running down at Kyle Trask.
Just imagine in like 2 to 3 years when he's in a training program, the entire year in the offseason with the Bills, and he tightens up his core and he tightens up those hips and how he's going to be able to create that rotational force that he already naturally has to torque guys like this and throw guys by. Just wait till he actually works on those muscles and areas, how he's going to be able to do these things. Like, it's going to be another level when you're talking about that type of stuff. So on his sack against the Bucks, what do you know? Same type of thing. Center back blocking, similar type thing here. They're running off a fake and a power. And this one, he doesn't come back inside. He actually stays outside. The center punches out with his left. So Walker says, all right, I'm going to punch out with my left and open up the back door here. And as soon as he opens up the back door with his length and power, and just watch his feet. Again, hands and feet working together. Boom, opens up that edge. Look at the feet. Look at how he's karaoke rushing there, crossing those feet, able to run up field. And then as soon as that guy's trying to recover, he says, you know what? And he's not even using his right hand here, but he's got the power and the feet to work around the hands of this blocker to cut back inside, flatten, and go get the quarterback. He's been so much fun to watch because there's so much detail in his play, whether it's the run or rushing the passer. There's so much detail to it. And it's scary because right now it just seems like it's his natural athleticism and skills. Wait till he can get in the program 2 to 3 years, weight room 2 to 3 years, and coaching in 2 to 3 years. This boy could be scary if he stays healthy.
Yeah. I think what's also really encouraging too, like what you talked about towards the end of the previous clip, like I was impressed with how he already in just a small, not full NFL offseason or year, already kind of changed his body composition a little bit. Like he trimmed down a bit in his midsection and in his upper body, changed the way he looked physically and how he's built, which should help him move better, should help his back, and just what he needed to do. He couldn't operate at that size and build like he was at Kentucky. And if he can do that in just a small amount of time, Yeah, imagine what kind of conditioning or shape he can get in full time in the NFL, and then pairing it with stacking techniques and learning and growing and building. And if he stays dedicated to it and builds on that regimen, like, goodness gracious, there's power, there's athleticism, there's hand placement. That rep was, just imagine you're wrenched back, and then all of a sudden he just quickly bop bop and gets through your hands, and now he's
Yeah.
barreling down on the QB.
Yeah, he's just on the full attack the entire time, right?
Like
He
a
just
bear, like an
yeah,
actual bear.
yeah, I'm opening up this edge. I'm attacking this edge. Oh, you're recovering? I'll go back across your face, flatten and get to the quarterback spot. Like all of that.
And what you mentioned too, what's nice, like once they're fully healthy, once Ogunjobi comes back,
Mhm.
I like the idea, like you potentially alluded to. I might be putting words in your mouth, but play him 15 to 20 snaps and let him just eat in the second half
Yeah.
against offensive linemen that are tired and been playing the whole game. And now you got this huge mountain of a man just trying to work through you or work around you
Yep.
in the second half when you're maybe down 10 points or 14. You have to pass the ball. Like, oh, goodness gracious.
He's a game wrecker, man. You see some violence in his hand usage, and it's very quick and sudden. And you saw that in this Bears game again, wide alignment, and he attacks outside and then stabs outside and then goes inside and then it's just unleashing fury. He's just like E Honda from back in the day, just swatting anything and everything in his path to get to the quarterback here. It's been so much fun to watch this guy, and that's why I like the future of this interior defensive line, including Deone Walker.
Yeah, this one, just the havoc creation, wins inside or is about to win inside. Running back is just trying to step up and live his life and check release out and gets hit by Walker. That causes 74 to get gummed up. He falls down. Walker's jumping over him, putting those giant paws up, trying to make a play on the ball or bat it down. And then he causes chaos for Bagent. Like, this is really like pure bull in a china shop energy and play right here, with just causing havoc in a multitude of ways. And then, like, if you're doing this also with guys like Joey Bosa, or Greg Rousseau, or Ed Oliver, or even TJ Sanders, like guys who know how to hunt a little bit better or who know how to get to the quarterback, especially for Bosa, who so much of his game is predicated upon angles and understanding drop depths and how to work through tackles, but also get to the QB and how that all ties together. Oh, like that type of chaos creation in the interior should pair really well with some dudes this year, and then potentially next year as they kind of build for the future. Hopefully, no jinx, fingers crossed. That was so dumb of me to say. I'm too superstitious to say that. I'm sorry.
Ed Oliver finished with a 16.7 win percentage in the preseason. Daquan Jones, same. Let's see here. Deone Walker, 15.4 win percentage, and TJ Sanders, 15.4 win percentage. So again, I think the future is bright, and bringing a guy like Jordan Phillips, who plays with the same size, same get off, girth, if you want to throw that in there, like he's a similar player. And Jordan Phillips talked about that in his presser today, how he can drop some knowledge on the younger guys. And again, I think that's just a plus. There's no downside to having him on the practice squad, working to, if he has to play someday, but also dropping knowledge in the scheme, little nuggets for a guy that's played his best football in this scheme. I'm excited about everything they've compiled and put together when it comes to the interior defensive line. Real quick, you kind of alluded to some of the pieces the Bills have added on the edge. What with Bosa and whatnot, what are you liking from the preseason when it comes to edge? You mentioned Landon Jackson. Talk about Javon Solomon, but also when Michael Hoyt comes back, who also was a guy that probably with him and Walker were like the two best players
out
the entire preseason. I'm talking both sides of the ball. What's that going to be like? That musical chairs game, what is that going to be like when those guys come back?
I'm really excited for that. I obviously hope the first 6 weeks go well, but get me to week 8 when Hoyt is back, and even Ogunjobi to a degree, but I'm just very excited for how Hoyt played this preseason, dominating tight ends, running through guys, running through tackles, running through guards, setting the edge against the run, hitting some jumping cross chop, beating some guys inside, speed to power, just a lot of mix of like kind of what Brandon Beane talked about earlier today, just like playing 100 miles an hour and going through guys, and that type of tenacity I like off the edge, but I like it even more if they put him in the A gap or put him off ball. And then now you got Deone Walker, who can align in a 0 or a 1 or a 2-eye or a 2 or a 3 or a 4-eye or a 5. You can put TJ Sanders in a wide alignment. You can kick Bosa inside. You could kick Groot inside. You can put him wide. There's a lot of schematic potential based off the individual skill sets and traits they've compiled with this defensive line. And I think the ceiling is high, especially from a pass rush perspective. I still have questions about what happens regularly from a run defense standpoint and displacement, but that'll be answered once we get enough sample size in the regular season. But I was concerned from a run defense standpoint and from a pass rush standpoint this year. I feel better after seeing preseason stuff and camp stuff. I do feel more hopeful for the pass rush and the sum of the parts and what things could look like schematically, especially with Ryan Nielsen being here. I'm excited for the ones to really get rolling and considering what this rotation could look like.
I love their combination of power, which has been the MO when it comes to the edge position at pass rushing.
Compression.
Length, but they've added some athleticism. I think not just at DN. I'm going to include the interior defensive line because we've been basically waxing poetic about them the entire preseason, but just how the pass rushers, which again, that is where they need to really step up their game in the playoffs, pass rushing. Their ability, the abilities they've added, the players they've added can attack both edges, whether you're talking at D end or at D tackle, like you've seen. Guys like TJ Sanders, Deone Walker, on top of guys like Ed Oliver, can attack either the gaps that they're lining up and rushing towards. That can be said a lot of guys on the outside as well. Groot has come a long way in that regard and how he's able to now challenge both hips of the tackle. Obviously, Bosa can do it. He can do both edges and through you. So I like the skill that they've added and that ability to attack each edge of a block or multiple gaps, get to multiple gaps, whether it's a run game or as a pass rusher. So I'm excited about these guys finally getting the hunt in the regular season here in week 1. And so it's unfortunate that Hoyt is going to be out and Ogunjobi. I think Ogunjobi got a pretty bad rap this preseason because of the injury partly, but I thought that his rushing powers also was kind of went unnoticed, especially I think it was the Bucs game where he's doing a lot of, power rushes, a lot of arm lifts and, collapsing that pocket from inside. I think this D line is going to be okay, guys. I think even with these guys out, I think this D line is going to be okay. When it comes to the first quarter of the season, and we're going to see some growing pains. There's no doubt about it, but the Bills are going to rely on a lot of these young players.
I like that point on Ogunjobi. I went back through and watched every single snap from him during the preseason run defense and pass rushing, and he had some better run defense reps than I was expecting. A couple double teams where he was able to kind of drop the knee, reduce service area, shed a guy, shed the inside man of the double, and then being able to attack the other. I like some of those pieces. And even from a rush perspective, he had some rushes in the Bucs game that I thought went unnoticed, but a lot of his rushes, especially in the first game against the Giants are running a lot of quick game. Ball was coming out fast. He didn't really get a chance. They were moving the pocket a lot. They were doing a lot of play action. So he had a lot of disadvantageous situations. And again, not that he looked like he was setting the world on fire and making all these plays, but I do think there was some context to kind of explain his production or lack thereof, or how he showed up a bit in the raw, box score. And honestly, I don't know. Who cares? Maybe Deone Walker's cooking and so is TJ Sanders and Larry Ogunjobi's defensive tackle 5. I don't care who balls out on the inside as long as somebody does. And again, if Ogunjobi's terrible somehow and, we spent $8 million for 1 year, who cares? It's 1 year. It doesn't matter. Like, I would actually love the financial allocation might not be great. If Ogunjobi has to take a back seat because Walker and Sanders are balling out, that means they're developing faster. Right. They're ready. I do not care.
Right. And he, again, coming from the division he's played in, Ogunjobi, I think his value, his versatility will come in hand in the locker room, yes, but also that grit, that sandpaper type attitude and play and blue collar play that he plays with. I think that can be infectious to the young guys as well. So I think there's some added value there that maybe we don't see, tangentially on the field, but you're going to see that over time and learning from. Jordan Phillips talked about guys he learned from, when he was in Miami. And I think Ogunjobi could be that guy, whether he's getting a lot of playing time or not, for the guys like Deone Walker and TJ Sanders and even some at the edge position.
Yeah, and especially with him, we talked about the 3-tech stuff he did before he went to Pittsburgh, and then he goes to Pittsburgh and he's playing more of a 3-4 defensive end, 4-eye. He's got a lot of experience in this league in a multitude of alignments in odd fronts and even fronts. And for a defense like the Bills that are even front based, but they're going to put Sanders and Walker in some wider alignments, yeah, by all means, share that knowledge, pass it on. There's a good mix of some veteran presence in the D line that can help the younger guys potentially develop and add on to what they have from a skill set and trait standpoint. So I am much more hopeful about this group than I was coming into the preseason. And I hope that feeling stays. And I'm going to put it out there before anybody even says it. Even if Baltimore houses them in the first game, Baltimore is a unicorn of an offense. They give everyone problems. I still don't think the Bills defense is a great matchup for them. So even if they put 500 yards and 400 of them are running the ball against the Bills, don't panic. Don't get crazy. We have to let this season develop, get some sample size, let these guys get time on task. Eric, as we start to wind down here and say goodbye, anything for the people here before we officially end the episode?
Appreciate everyone joining us live. Appreciate you if you're watching it later on tonight. Appreciate you even more if you share it with someone that you know that would enjoy this content. Of course, we're not just on YouTube. You can find us on all podcast platforms, whether it's iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can find us everywhere and anywhere. Also, if you haven't taken a look at Turf to Tape with Sal Capacci and I, please dive into that. Let me know what you think about it. It's a different angle on, kind of what we do here in the film room. It's taking the film and analysis and combining it with the media angle and access that Sal has. And it's been really fun. You guys have really supported us and to get that show off the ground. We appreciate it. So if you haven't, go check it out. We record once a week as well, just like we do in the film room. And just overall, huge thanks. It's been a long offseason, not quite the regular season yet, but we're trying to get our reps in. We're trying to get our 5 o'clock, show ready each and every week. But it's one of those things. We have tough schedules, and we apologize ahead of time if we don't go at the same time every week. But either way, when we are live or when we do record, we're going to be bringing it. It's going to be in depth, and you're going to have a lot of fun. I hope you guys had fun tonight. How could you not? Deone Walker film. That was fun, right?
Yeah. So many people are I would say you do anything with Deone Walker and everybody just wants that and gobbles that up. So yeah, I hope you folks enjoyed this episode. And yeah, Eric, I could not have said it better. We're thankful for everybody who rode with us this off season and who is cognizant of our schedules and when we drop episodes and what we do, but we're starting to get into that rhythm, as is the entire brand, as we start to move forward for that regular season push. So check out the multitude of content we have across the entire channel, including Turf to Tape with Eric and Sal. We're pumped to have the shows that we have spread across this network. So whether it's this episode or this show or another show or the channel or the brand, whatever have you, we appreciate any and every positive aspect of support, likes, ratings, reviews, turning on notifications, subscribing, following, positive word of mouth to tell family and friends about the show, the brand, the channel, anything and everything. We greatly appreciate any and every ounce of support from you folks in whatever form or fashion it comes in. Drop a like here if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening, please rate, review, and subscribe. Turn on notifications here on YouTube. Relax and get ready for, that's right, Dirty Jersey says, man, that got me excited. Football's almost here. We are so close. We're so very close, even though that first weekend's going to feel long because the Bills are the Sunday night game. We got to sit around all day. I know. I love that the Bills are good. I definitely miss Sunday 1 o'clock games. Just take me back there. I appreciate that time, but alas, they're good now, so we have to play in prime time. But yeah, thank you folks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Rate, review, subscribe, like, share, word of mouth, all that stuff. That'll do it for us here in this episode of the Film Room. For myself, Anthony Prohaska, for the godfather and founder of Cover One, Mr. Eric Turner. We hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. We will see you when we see you. Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.